what's happened to women's basketball at the collegiate level and international. And it's just been awesome to be a small part of what's happened. And date little girls, all you guys that have those little girls, they can grow up and have a dream. And they can dream to get a scholarship and it can become a reality. They can dream to be a representative of their country on the basketball court, and it can happen. And I just appreciate being a part of that whole process.
This is After Hours with Amy Lawrence.
The great Pat Summitt from her 2000 Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame acceptance speech. She would go on to win more titles after that, 8 overall, but unfortunately had to retire in 2012 prematurely because she was diagnosed with dementia and the early onset Alzheimer's type. And college basketball lost a great on Tuesday when she passed away at 64. It's After Hours with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio. I always love the stories from players who played at Tennessee with Coach Pat Summitt. And we're pleased to welcome Tasha Butts, who was there in the early 2000s as a player for 4 years and then as an assistant coach for a year after that, and is now with LSU in her 5th season as an assistant coach. Tasha, I know this has been a really difficult stretch, losing someone that you love so much. I'm very sorry for your loss, but I appreciate your time so much. These last few days, how would you describe them as a member of the Tennessee volunteer family?
I think probably for all of us, it has just been a ball of confusion. And when I say confusion, I mean, why someone of her caliber, of her personality, of the things that she brought, not only to the game of basketball, but to life, why would she be taken away from us? But at the end of the day, all of us have been, resting with hanging and believing, that she's in a better place. But it's been heartbreaking. All of our hearts are heavy, but we all, can lay our head down and sleep knowing that she's no longer in pain.
When was the last time that you saw her or communicated with her?
It was I think February. We were in town to play Vanderbilt, and I went down early. And I went down and I called her caretaker, and I asked if I could come and see her. And she had just came from a movie. And I met them at her home. And we sat there, and, she didn't necessarily know who I was, but we sat there and had a conversation, and she was very engaged. We shared pictures of our dogs. I showed her pictures of my nephew, which, she just loved seeing pictures of babies. And, so I sat there and talked to her for maybe half an hour. And, as I was leaving, I'm not for sure if this is something that she just had stored in the back of her mind, or if it was something that just kind of came to light at that time. As I was walking out of the door, she screamed, I love you. And I turned around, with tears in my eyes, and I said, I love you too, Pat. And, it took everything in me, not to burst out in tears in front of her. So I just kind of ran out the door. But just this past week, been in constant communication with everyone, that's been there, trying to make it down there. But by the time I could get a flight, they were no longer, having visitors. So, just kind of prayed about it. And, I am confident that, she felt my spirit.
Mm. This is a woman that meant so much to so many different people, even those of us who didn't know her specifically, for what she meant for women in sports and all of the barriers that she crushed and crashed through. Why did you play for her at the University of Tennessee? What was it about her that attracted you?
For me, when I was making that decision, obviously when you're being recruited, it's so many people coming at you at different directions. And when I was being recruited by Pat, and through the conversations with her along with her staff, I felt like they were an extension of my family from Millersville, Georgia. I felt like I could look at Pat and she would steer me in the same direction as my mom and my father would. Everything was just sealed when she came into my home for a home visit. And she promised my mom that she, would take care of me, that she would help me become a successful young woman. But at the end of the day, I had to work for it. But she would give me those tools to succeed that would help me in any type of way. And that she was going to make me earn it. She was going to make me earn everything that I received at Tennessee, whether it was the good, the bad, whatever it was, that I would have to earn it. And that was the type of family that I came from. And I felt like I could go to Tennessee and not only be successful on the court, but off the court, and that I will be able to make it life after basketball because of the tools that she would be able to supply me and help me with. And, for me, that was a easy sell to go and play for a legend, an icon, someone so powerful as Pat. It was hard, but it was definitely worth it.
Tasha Butts is now an assistant coach with the LSU women's basketball team, but played for Pat Summitt in the early 2000s and then went on to the WNBA. It's After Hours here on CBS Sports Radio. So you said that she promised she would help you. How did she do that, Tasha? How did she help you achieve the goals that you set for yourself on and off the court?
Oh, wow. Oh, I don't know if we have enough time. You know what? She challenged me. I mean, that woman challenged me. Sometimes she could be stubborn, but so could I. And the thing is that she put me in situations that made me uncomfortable. And the one thing that she always told me, in order to be comfortable, in order to be great, you got to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And she made sure that whether I was, not comfortable with playing a certain position, not comfortable with speaking up and becoming a leader for our team, she put me in those situations. And those situations not only helped me on the court, but they helped me off the court and learning how to be a leader. After being a player, and I was fortunate enough to be her graduate assistant, she put me in those real life situations where I had to mentor young women to give them the advice, not only for now, but for the future. And, for Pat, a lot of those things happen behind closed doors in practice when no one is there. When all of us are on that line and we were doing sprints and all we had were each other. All we had was our coaching staff to talk to us, to yell at us, to encourage us. And she taught us about family. She taught us about how to lean on one another, that loyalty. She drilled and instilled in us her definite dozen. And that is the thing that right now is my, life philosophy. And that's something that I will continue to teach our kids as well as, the future. And, those are, different things, respect yourself and others. That goes a long way. Discipline yourself so no one else has to, handle failure as you handle success. Those were just a few things that she kind of taught us and put us in those situations. But at the end of the day, for us, the Lady Vols, those were not a list of phrases. Though that was a way of life. And that is the way that we do things, all of us, and that's something that she instilled in us, but she put me in those uncomfortable situations so that I can make it today.
One of the things that basketball fans know of her, would see of her whenever she was coaching on the sidelines, is that fiery stare and when she would really get, tenacious and really get locked into that zone. So what was it like to be in one of her huddles when she was mad at you guys?
Oh, it was intense. And I would say, fortunate and unfortunate enough to get that stare a lot. But you know what? The one thing that I would say about her, Pat, was what I call a versatile coach. She knew who could handle it and who couldn't handle it. She knew how to coach each and every one of her players. And I think the misconception that a lot of people get is that as a coach, you have to coach each player the same exact way. Well, that's not true because each player has a different personality. And Pat has, in the past, she admitted that she had to change over time. And the thing about us is that she knew who she could get into, who could get that stare, who could get yelled at, but who also needed to have their hand held and talk to them. And that's the thing that a lot of people didn't see, is that she was this fiery coach with those piercing blue eyes. But in that huddle, sometimes if we needed to be, protected, she was that one. But in those huddles, it was about business. Whether she yelled at us or whether she talked to us with a calm voice, you knew once we stepped across those lines that it was about business. And she gave us that confidence, and we were an extension of her. We had the swagger, so to speak, of our head coach, that we felt like anytime we stepped on that court that we were already 10 points better. And that was what she gave us. That's what she instilled in us. But those huddles were nothing easy. They were full of information, but at the end of the day, they were always full of life wisdom.
Tasha Butts is a former player under Pat Summitt, who passed away today at 64. It's After Hours here on CBS Sports Radio. So before I let you go, you are now a coach. You've been at LSU for 5 years. How much of the way that you coach have you taken from the way that you were coached by Coach Summitt?
The one thing, I've taken so many things, but, towards obviously, when she said she had to kind of grow with the game, she had to change based on the players. That's the one thing that I pride myself in making sure that I'm a versatile coach, making sure that I take pride in developing those individual relationships with each of our players so that you know how to get the best out of them, and not being so stubborn that it is all about you. Always thinking about people, always thinking about the next person. And if that's one thing that I learned from her, is that you win in life with people, which is why you have thousands and thousands and millions of people that understand and know who Pat Summitt is, even if they don't watch women's basketball, even if they're not a sport fan, they understand who she is and what she's meant, not only to basketball, but to this world. She's an icon. She's powerful, all of the above, not because of the number of games and championships that she won, but also because she won with people. She understood and understands what it is to build those relationships. And that's the thing that I try and do with our players. Yes, you discipline them. You expect the best out of them, but you cannot expect those things and do those things if you don't have a personal relationship. And, the one quote that I'll, leave you all with that she always said is they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's the one thing she lived by, and that's the thing that I'm living by.
Tasha played under the legendary Coach Pat Summitt in the early 2000s and now moves forward as an assistant coach at LSU women's basketball. I know this was a really hard day, a very difficult weekend. Thank you so much for sharing your memories of the great Coach Pat Summitt.
No problem, and thank you